Today, we're diving into one of life's most challenging questions. Why are some souls born into incredibly difficult circumstances, while others seemingly float through life on clouds of privilege? This question cuts to the core of our spiritual understanding and challenges our sense of fairness. You might have a general idea about karma or cosmic justice, but how do we actually make sense of the vast inequality we see? Why does one child open their eyes to loving parents and opportunity, while another faces neglect and scarcity from day one? The contrast is stark, and the answers aren't simple. But together, we're going to explore this spiritual puzzle that's troubled humans since the beginning of time. I've spent years studying spiritual traditions across cultures, from ancient Eastern philosophies to Western mystical teachings, and the patterns are fascinating. This isn't just academic for me. Understanding this question transformed how I view my own privileges and struggles, and it might just change your perspective too. So in this exploration, I'm going to break down 5 key spiritual frameworks that help explain why souls experience such different journeys. We'll look at soul evolution, karmic patterns, soul contracts, the classroom of Earth, and finally, the illusion of separation. Each offers a unique lens that, when combined, creates a powerful way to understand life's greatest inequalities. Before we dive in though, let me be clear about something important. These perspectives aren't meant to dismiss real suffering or justify systemic injustice. They're spiritual frameworks that can help us make meaning of our experiences, not excuses for failing to create a more just world. In fact, you'll soon see how understanding these concepts often leads to greater compassion and inspired action, rather than passive acceptance. Let's begin with perhaps the most foundational concept: soul evolution. Imagine your soul as something much larger and older than just your current identity. Most spiritual traditions suggest we've lived many lives before this one, each offering different lessons and experiences. Your soul, like any conscious entity, is on a journey of growth and understanding. Think of it like going through different grades in school. Just as a kindergartner and a college student have very different challenges appropriate to their development, souls encounter different life circumstances based on where they are in their evolutionary journey. Hard lives often contain accelerated growth opportunities. The soul that chooses difficult circumstances isn't being punished. It's often engaging with advanced lessons about compassion, forgiveness, resilience, or overcoming limitation. These challenging experiences, while painful in the moment, can catalyze tremendous spiritual development. Meanwhile, lives of privilege might offer different lessons, perhaps about responsibility, generosity, avoiding the traps of materialism, or using resources wisely to benefit others. Each life circumstance presents its own spiritual curriculum. A beautiful example of this comes from the life of Paramahansa Yogananda, who taught that souls move through stages of spiritual maturity across many lifetimes. He described how some souls may choose extremely challenging lives because they're ready to burn through karmic patterns quickly, while others need the gentler path of privilege to learn their particular lessons. This doesn't mean suffering is good or necessary. Rather, that souls at different stages of development encounter different experiences as part of their growth. No soul stays permanently in hardship or privilege. We each experience the full spectrum of human conditions across our soul journey. But this brings us to an important question. What determines which experiences we encounter in this lifetime? This leads us to our second framework, karmic patterns. Karma is often misunderstood as cosmic punishment, but it's actually about learning through cause and effect. It's the spiritual principle that our actions create energy patterns that eventually return to us as experiences. Think of it like this. If you throw a ball against a wall, it bounces back to you. The force and angle you use determines how it returns. Karma works similarly. The energy of our past choices shapes our present circumstances. Some souls are born into hard lives because they're experiencing the return energy of previous actions, not as punishment, but as an opportunity to understand the impact of certain choices. A soul that once lived in harshness toward others might experience being on the receiving end to develop empathy. A soul that misused power might experience powerlessness to learn humility. Similarly, privilege can reflect positive karmic patterns from past compassion, generosity, or service. But privilege also creates its own karmic test. Will you use your advantages selfishly or to benefit others? A story from the Buddhist tradition illustrates this beautifully. Buddha was once asked why some people suffer while others prosper. He explained that our current circumstances are like a seed planted in previous lifetimes, now bearing fruit. But importantly, he taught that we always have the power to plant new seeds through our present choices, creating different future experiences. What matters most is not the circumstances we're born into, but how we respond to them. A soul in difficult circumstances who responds with love creates positive karma moving forward. A privileged soul who becomes entitled or cruel creates challenging patterns for future experiences. This brings us to another dimension. What if these experiences aren't just random returns of energy, but actually chosen lessons? This leads to our third framework, soul contracts. Many spiritual traditions teach that before incarnating, souls make agreements about the major themes and relationships they'll experience in their upcoming life. These soul contracts are made with deep wisdom and purpose, designed to provide exactly the conditions needed for specific growth. Hard lives aren't random misfortune in this framework. They're often carefully chosen classrooms. The soul may select challenging circumstances to develop particular qualities: resilience through poverty, compassion through experiencing discrimination, inner strength through physical limitation. Similarly, souls born into privilege may have chosen those circumstances to learn about responsibility, avoiding the traps of materialism, or using resources to serve humanity. The circumstances themselves aren't rewards or punishments. They're learning environments. These contracts often involve agreements with other souls too. The parent who abandons you might be fulfilling a pre-birth agreement to help you develop independence. The mentor who believes in you when no one else does might be honoring a soul promise to support your unique gifts. Dr. Michael Newton's research with thousands of people under hypnosis revealed fascinating accounts of this pre-birth planning process. His subjects consistently described choosing difficult life circumstances specifically for their growth potential, often with the guidance of spiritual teachers and loved ones. One woman recalled choosing to be born with a physical disability because she wanted to experience life beyond physical identity and develop inner gifts that might have been neglected in an able body. Another chose poverty to overcome materialistic tendencies from previous lifetimes. This doesn't mean we should passively accept injustice, saying, well, they chose it. The soul's choice happens from a place of profound wisdom that our human selves don't fully remember. Our human response should still be compassion and working toward justice, even while understanding there may be deeper purposes at work. This brings us to our fourth framework, which helps explain why Earth contains such extremes of experience in the first place. Many spiritual teachers describe Earth as a particularly intensive learning environment, a planet specifically designed for accelerated soul growth through contrast and duality. Unlike some other realms where souls might exist in more harmonious states, Earth offers the full spectrum of human experience, from the heights of joy to the depths of suffering, from extreme privilege to extreme hardship. These stark contrasts create powerful learning opportunities that aren't available in more homogeneous environments. Hard lives and privileged lives aren't random distributions, but different classroom assignments within this larger learning system. Each soul chooses or is guided to the specific experiences that will best serve its evolution. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying addresses this directly, explaining that the human realm is considered especially precious because it contains sufficient suffering to motivate spiritual growth, but also sufficient freedom and opportunity to achieve awakening. Other realms might be more pleasant or more painful, but lack this perfect balance for transformation. Earth could be seen as a spiritual graduate school. Souls come here precisely because the learning is intensive. The inequality we observe isn't a cosmic mistake, but part of the design that allows souls to experience the full range of human conditions over many lifetimes. Dolores Cannon, through her regression work with thousands of subjects, documented accounts of Earth as an accelerated learning environment. Many describe choosing Earth specifically because its intense contrasts allowed them to develop qualities in a single lifetime that might take many lifetimes elsewhere. But this raises a profound question. If souls are having such different experiences, doesn't that reinforce our separation from each other? This brings us to our fifth and deepest framework, the illusion of separation. The most profound spiritual insight across traditions is that separation is ultimately an illusion. Despite appearances, we are all expressions of one unified consciousness experiencing itself through countless perspectives. Through this lens, the soul born into hardship and the soul born into privilege are actually the same consciousness having different experiences. Like a dreamer who plays all the characters in their dream, the divine consciousness experiences itself through every human life. This doesn't mean our individual experiences aren't real or significant. Rather, it suggests that on the deepest level, we're all connected in ways our human minds can barely comprehend. In Hindu philosophy, this is explained through the concept of Lila, or divine play. The one consciousness deliberately fragments itself into seemingly separate beings to experience the full drama of human existence. The wealthy and the poor, the fortunate and the suffering, are all the divine consciousness wearing different masks. Similarly, in Christian mysticism, Richard Rohr describes how Christ consciousness permeates all beings, making everyone equally sacred despite their outer circumstances. The person in privilege and the person in poverty both contain the same divine spark, temporarily experiencing different aspects of the human condition. This perspective fundamentally transforms how we view inequality. If we're all ultimately one consciousness, then your suffering is my suffering. Your joy is my joy. This isn't just poetic language. It's the deepest reality according to those who have experienced profound spiritual awakening. Ramana Maharshi expressed this by saying, "There are no others." The person you see struggling isn't fundamentally separate from you. They're another expression of the same consciousness you are. This realization naturally gives rise to compassion and service, not as charity to someone else, but as care for another part of yourself. When we truly understand this, the question shifts from, why do some souls have it easier than others? To, how can I serve the larger consciousness that we all are? So how do these 5 frameworks work together to explain the profound inequalities we see in human experience? The soul evolution perspective tells us we're all at different points in a long journey of growth. The karmic view suggests our present circumstances reflect the energy patterns we've previously created, offering opportunities to learn and evolve. Soul contracts remind us that many of our experiences may be chosen specifically for their growth potential. The Earth classroom concept helps us understand why such diverse experiences exist on one planet, and the illusion of separation reveals that beneath these apparent differences, we're all expressions of one unified consciousness. Together, these frameworks don't excuse injustice or suggest we should passively accept suffering. Instead, they invite us to see deeper meaning in our circumstances while still working to create a more compassionate world. Consider the story of Helen Keller, Born both blind and deaf in an era with few resources for her conditions, through this immense challenge, she developed extraordinary inequalities and became an inspiration to millions. Was her soul being punished? Or was it brave enough to choose a difficult path with tremendous growth potential? Or consider Malala Yousafzai, born female in a region hostile to women's education. Through those very challenges, she developed extraordinary courage and became a global voice for educational equality. Her circumstances weren't a cosmic mistake, but the perfect conditions to fulfill her soul's purpose. These perspectives don't mean we should glorify suffering or excuse injustice. Rather, they suggest that while we work to create a more equitable world, we can also recognize the deeper growth opportunities within difficult circumstances. When we truly internalize these spiritual frameworks, several important shifts happen in our awareness. First, we develop greater compassion. Seeing others' struggles as part of their soul journey doesn't diminish our empathy. It enhances it. We recognize the courage it takes to face difficult circumstances. Second, we take greater responsibility. If our circumstances reflect our own soul's journey, we stop blaming others for our challenges and instead ask, what am I meant to learn from this? Third, we use privilege differently. Those born into advantage recognize it's not a cosmic reward for superiority, but a responsibility to serve others and grow beyond materialism. Fourth, we become more effective change makers. Instead of fighting injustice from anger or guilt, we work from a place of recognizing our fundamental unity with all beings. Fifth, we find meaning in our struggles. Rather than asking, why me? When facing challenges, we can ask, what is this teaching me? How might my soul be growing through this? This doesn't mean accepting systemic injustice. In fact, many souls seem to incarnate specifically to help transform unjust systems. Their spiritual understanding doesn't make them passive. It makes them more effective agents of positive change because they act from wisdom rather than reactivity. Martin Luther King Jr. embodied this perfectly. His spiritual understanding of human unity didn't make him accept racial injustice. It gave him the wisdom and compassion to fight it more effectively. He saw beyond the illusion of separation while still working diligently to change unjust human systems. So how do we actually apply these spiritual frameworks in our daily lives? If you're experiencing privilege, ask yourself, how can I use these advantages to serve others? What am I meant to learn about responsibility and generosity? How can I avoid the traps of materialism and entitlement? If you're facing hardship, consider, what qualities is my soul developing through these challenges? How might I be growing in ways that wouldn't be possible in easier circumstances? What wisdom am I gaining that I can eventually share with others? For all of us, regardless of circumstances, the invitation is to practice seeing beyond appearances to the soul journey in everyone you meet. Take full responsibility for your own growth while maintaining compassion for yourself. Look for the learning opportunity in every circumstance, especially the difficult ones. Remember your fundamental connection to all beings. Dissolving the illusion of separation. Use whatever resources you have, whether abundant or limited, to serve the greater good. These practices don't magically eliminate life's challenges, but they transform how we experience them. When we see our circumstances as meaningful rather than random, we discover an inner freedom that transcends outer conditions. The great spiritual teacher, Ram Dass, once said that we're all just walking each other home. This beautifully captures the ultimate purpose behind the diverse experiences of hardship and privilege. We're not random biological accidents experiencing meaningless suffering or arbitrary fortune. We're conscious beings on an incredible journey of remembering our true nature, which is far greater than our current identities and circumstances. The soul in hardship isn't being punished, but is often bravely facing challenges that will ultimately reveal extraordinary inner strength. The soul in privilege isn't being rewarded, but is being tested in different ways. Will they transcend materialistic temptations and use their resources wisely? Both are walking each other home, back to the remembrance of who we truly are beyond all temporary circumstances. This doesn't mean we should be passive in the face of injustice. Part of walking each other home involves creating human systems that honor everyone's dignity and provide opportunities for all souls to thrive. But it does mean we can find profound meaning in whatever circumstances we face. Recognizing that our true identity transcends our temporary conditions. As the mystic poet Rumi wrote, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. So why are some souls born into hard lives and others into privilege?" There's no simple answer, but these spiritual frameworks offer profound perspective. Every soul is on a unique journey of evolution across many lifetimes. Our circumstances reflect karmic patterns created through our own choices. Many of our experiences may be chosen before birth for their growth potential. Earth itself is designed as an accelerated learning environment with built-in contrasts. And beneath these apparent differences, we're all expressions of one unified consciousness. This understanding doesn't eliminate the real pain of suffering or the responsibility that comes with privilege, but it does offer a more compassionate and empowering way to view life's profound inequalities. When we truly understand these principles, judgment falls away. We no longer envy those in privilege or pity those in hardship. Instead, we recognize that every soul is exactly where it needs to be for its unique journey, while still working to create a world that honors everyone's dignity. Perhaps most importantly, we remember that this physical life, whether easy or difficult, is just one chapter in our soul's much longer story. The circumstances of our birth don't define us. They're simply the opening setting for this particular lifetime's journey of awakening. And in that awakening lies our ultimate freedom. The realization that regardless of outer circumstances, our inner essence remains untouched, eternal, and connected to all that is. Thank you for exploring this profound question with me today. May this understanding bring you greater peace with your own circumstances and deeper compassion for others, whatever their journey may be.